Well, good morning and welcome to Cityline. It is great to be in your home. This morning is the 17th of November, a week away from Thanksgiving. Where did that go? And we are live every Thursday morning. We have a great show ahead of us. Later on we'll be, well, it's true. The big elf will be here. Santa will be in the house in the final fabulous segment because he's going to start showing up more as these days roll forward. Also, Lynn Carlito, she's the general manager of Tacoma City Theaters and ASM Global. She will be here to talk about the tree lighting ceremony the day after Thanksgiving. I love that. And what's also is Dr. Paul Elliott Cobbs. He's with Tacoma Youth Symphony. I should call him Maestro. He is here to talk about that program, the great concerts, and how your child can be a part of it if they so desire. With me is somebody I only get to see when I go to events, and I usually see him up at a table in the front, or he is the keynote speaker, which should tell you how fabulous he is, and it's true. Please join me in welcoming our strategic manager for the City of Tacoma, Jacques Colon. Welcome, my dear.
Thanks, Amanda.
Good to have you here. Who are you told you look like?
Nobody. I have no celebrity, bizarro personalities.
And that question answer is correct. You are you, and that's the best part of the whole thing. All right, my dear. So I remember when I saw you speaking up on the stage at Spaceworks 4 years ago, when we were on the waterfront, and I thought, I'm really glad that man's in charge of our city and doing some good stuff. So Tacoma 2025, it's a city strategic plan, and it's called a community vision. Tell us what it is.
Sure. So Tacoma 2025 is, like you said, it's the strategic plan for the city. Unlike a lot of other strategic plans that are developed by the city staff or a consultant, we really made sure that Tacoma 2025 was written, designed, shaped by the community.
Wow.
So there were more than 2,000 community members that, literally shaped what the goals of the city were, what that meant. So when council looks at the community vision, they understand that this isn't just staff kind of trying to create a framework. This is their constituents in the community really telling them what's important to them, what they want council to spend their time trying to figure out and address.
I have to say, I've done community needs assessments as consultants, but also in other organizations I've worked in, and those things, they are gold. When you are handed this and it says 300 people thought this, oh my gosh, it is like the keys to the kingdom. Are you finding that to be true?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially over time, because we see that the things that folks were pointing us to keep popping up, right? The wisdom of the community keeps being shown as we try to address things. So everything that the community told us in Tacoma 2025 has been a priority, if not become an increased priority as time has gone on. So very much so, yes. So
there are 6 council priorities that were identified. Tell us what they are.
Yeah, so we took Tacoma 2025, that community vision, and we worked with council to say, here are the 24 indicators that the community really wants to prioritize. We know that 24 priorities is the same as 0 priorities, right? So we worked with council to have them figure out which of those 24 were their highest priority. We ended up with 6, and those are, just really quickly, public safety, affordable housing and homelessness, livable wage jobs, health, access to facilities and services, and then the last one is a little bit interesting. We call it belief and trust, but it's belief that you can have an impact in your community and trust in your local government. So that one's really important.
Wow, that last one is very impressive because Mayor Woodard's, who I adore, every year she makes a statement about we're compassionate Tacoma, or this is the year of healing, or this is the year that we start embracing anti-racism. And she's always got one of those strong spiritual type goals in there. So I like
Right.
that last one
Yes.
a lot. How is the city addressing the council priorities?
In a lot of different ways. We have our overall strategy as a city that's being implemented by departments. So everybody that works at the city knows about Tacoma 2025. They know about the council priorities. Our budget is designed around those 6 council priority areas. So everything that we do is really pointing in those directions. And then in addition to that, we have a lot of initiatives and projects for the things that aren't necessarily covered by departments. So one example would be, as we look at housing and homelessness, right? Obviously, a huge issue, a huge priority for the community. Well, what we're doing isn't quite enough to overcome the issue that we're trying to address, right? So looking at how do we create new initiatives, for example, an affordable housing action strategy that would take all of the different components that are contributing to the full spectrum of housing instability, from homelessness through stable housing, and really figuring out how do we work together, how do we partner outside of the city, how do we make sure that really all hands are on deck, rowing in the same direction, trying to address what we know is a crisis within the community.
Jacques, you don't have time on your side, do you?
No.
Because I was just sitting here thinking about 3 years ago how the world, our city, everything was so different. And how now you have an ordinance, a camping ordinance, ordinance ban on being around certain areas within 90 feet. And how did that either change or make you stop and reevaluate the affordable housing action strategy?
Yeah, well, everything makes us stop and reevaluate
Everything
constantly,
does.
right? I think with the camping ban in particular that you're talking about, when we look at the strategic plan, folks want us to address the issue in a way that leads to more people being housed stably, more people getting the services that they need. And so as we look at policies such as this, we want to make sure that, again, we're rowing in the same direction. So it's not just a ban, right? We want to make sure that it is a ban that is leading with housing first, that is leading with services first, making sure that we're not just punitively punishing people for experiencing homelessness, but we're really trying to take every available avenue to link them up with the services that they might need, help them get into stable housing eventually. So, that policy is one example, but I would say everything that happens, the pandemic, the economic situation, what's happening with the cost of lumber and construction, everything changes that analysis and forces us to reevaluate whether what we're doing is actually addressing the issue, helping us get to a better outcome, or whether we need to reevaluate. So that's just part of the process for sure.
Well said. So how is the city working to improve belief and trust in the community? Because let me tell you, I never miss a city council meeting.
Yeah.
And there's some work to be done.
There is. Wow, we're doing a lot there. And part of the reason why is belief and trust isn't one thing, right? Every individual has a different reason why they don't feel like they can make an impact, or why they don't necessarily trust local government. So there is no one solution. But some of the things that we're doing are really thinking about how things like language access affect who believes they can have an impact or trust their local government. So integrating language access into everything that we do, making sure people who don't speak English as their first language have access to the same information so that they can help inform what's happening in their city and their neighborhood just the same as somebody who speaks English as their first language. Other things that affect that is feeling like they don't have close contact with decisions that are made that affect their neighborhood.
Transparency.
So we're trying to, increase transparency for the decisions that are made by council, but also looking at how can we shift some of those decisions to the community that's experiencing them.
There we go.
So one of the initiatives that I'm really excited about is called participatory budgeting, and that's the notion that the solutions to problems live in the communities that are experiencing them. So why don't we just cut out the middleman and provide that money to the community and ask them, how would this money best be used to address the issues that are most important to you? And so that process of really helping the community solve their own issues, identify what that would look like, and work together to solve them, really feel like that's a key component to increasing that belief and trust.
I agree. When I was working on a strategic plan, I didn't have to deal with the pandemic. So I have to ask, knowing you, you probably had a really tidy presentation, you had everything laid out, and then boom, the pandemic hits. How did it affect that vision?
It both really affected it and also didn't.
Yeah.
Let me explain. So in some ways, the pandemic changed everything, right? So belief and trust, as an example, changed when we talked about how do people interact with council, right? It's no longer going to be in person, right? So figuring out how do we start moving to online systems that folks can interact with? How do we make sure that folks have access to their city even when we can't be in person? So that's one part of it. But the pandemic also really exacerbated, jobs, housing and
Barriers.
homelessness, barriers,
Yes.
access to services, right?
Yes.
So all of those priorities that the community had already identified really became exacerbated.
They did.
Right? It wasn't that we were seeing new issues pop up. It was that the issues that we already had heard from the community were priorities got worse.
They did.
And so in that way, it didn't change Tacoma 2025, but we did have to really examine how things were changing within those priorities. So that example of online for belief and trust is
Yes.
one example. Services can't be the same moving forward,
they
right?
can't.
So looking at that, what do mobile services look like? How do we shift to other ways of doing business? So it was really interesting in that we have a ton of confidence that the community vision was right on point and that they knew best, and just recognition that we are in a changing world. And so looking forward, how we execute and accomplish that community vision, it has to change along with the times.
I love that. We have less than 30 seconds, and we've been showing your website across your beautiful face, where people can go and hopefully read about the strategic plan and read some notes and get an idea. I always say, be a part of the solution. Okay, if you want to see something done, step in and do it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here. And now that I've had you on the comfy couch, I'm going to have to chase you around Tacoma to get you back on the couch every 90 days so we get an update.
Deal.
All right. We have much more to come on Cityline. We're going to do a little musical chairs, and then we'll be right back after this quick message.